when you bring out gold from the earth and it's mixed with other properties, it goes through a heating process, a difficult heating process, in order to extract the pure gold out of it. And the more heat that is, and the more the process is intense, the more pure the gold comes out. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us fitna through good and bad. What comes out of you? You can come out gold, or you can come out something else. We live, however, in a world where there will always be fitna. Fitna. And the definition in Islam of the word fitna means tests, trials and tribulations in life, in both good and bad things. Tests, trials, tribulations in our life, in both good and bad things. We get tested, trialed and tribulated with our luxuries, with our comfort, with our blessings, with our looks, with our reputation, with our status, with our position, with our money, with our business, with our success. All of these are a fitna. And we also are tested with trials, tribulations, and tests with the opposite, with lack of wealth, loss of lives, with certain hardships in our life, with conflicts, with death, with sickness, and so on. The word fitna, its origin in Arabic means to bring out the truth, or the purity, or to bring out what is beneath something. So usually they used to use it for gold. When you can bring out gold from the earth and it's mixed with other properties, it goes through a heating process, a difficult heating process, in order to extract the pure gold out of it. And the more heat that is, and the more the process is intense, the more pure the gold comes out. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us fitna through good and bad. What comes out of you? You can come out gold, or you can come out something else. And my brothers and sisters, here are some 6 ways the scholars counted different types of fitna that happen in our life. Number 1, I'll just call them tests. Test in temptations, desires and lusts. First fitna. Number 2, test in wealth, success, ease and loss. Second type of fitna. Number 3, test in our families. Another type of fitna. Number 4, test in tragedies and disasters. For example, life's hardships, natural disasters, famine, and so on. Number 5, tests in our ideologies and religion. That's probably the most difficult one, to be tested in our ideologies and our religion. Today, this is probably the hardest one in our time that we're living in, with the extreme networking and social media that we have. Number 6, test in conflicts and fights and confusion between people. And this is when wars, conflicts, oppression, persecution, misinformation, cults, killing, like what is happening now. This is a fitna when people are harmed. Confusion, conflict, killing, murders, cults, oppression, wars. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to do something about all this. He said, the hadith is in Sahih Muslim, بادروا بالأعمال الصالحة. Hasten, be quick. Don't procrastinate. Hasten in doing righteous deeds now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Then he said, فَسَتَكُونُ فِتَنًا. For soon there shall come tests, trials and tribulations. كَقِطَعِ اللَّيْلِ الْمُظْلِمِ. Like walking in a pitch dark road. If you're walking in a pitch dark road, you don't know what's in front of you. What beasts lurk, what ditches there are, what objects there are in front of you. You don't know where you're going. That's called fitan. And this is the worst type of fitna, when things are mixed and you can't tell the truth from the false, and there are doubts and you hear misinformation, and people interpret things their way, then other people, they bring you news another way. Emotions and stories and news and I don't know what. These are called fitan of darkness. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, يُصْبِحُ الرَّجُلُ مُؤْمِنًا وَيُمْسِي كَافِرًا. And that time, a person by the morning is a believer, by the evening is a disbeliever. وَيُمْسِي مُؤْمِنًا وَيُصْبِحُ كَافِرًا. And by the evening is a believer, by the morning is a disbeliever. يَبِيعُ دِينَهُ بِعَرَضٍ مِّنَ الدُّنْيَا. Why? He sells his religion and his faith for a gain of this world. That's why. Once again, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, hasten in righteous good deeds. Why? Because when you hasten in righteous good deeds now, before calamities and trials approach you, They will be your strength when the trials and calamities approach you. But if you're a person who is constantly playing games with your life, neglectful, your heart is neglectful, you're wasting it on other things, always materialism, your salat is neglected, your fasting is neglected, your righteousness is neglected, your Quran is neglected, reflecting on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and your deen is neglected, and suddenly trials and tribulations happen to you, you're not going to be strong. These are the people Rasulullah say, they will be believers, next minute they're not. One minute you see them at the masjid at Fajr, by Isha, where is he? And suddenly someone tells you, Allah, he's apostated, he's left Islam. You see him at Isha, by the time Fajr comes in, possibly he's apostated. Allahu Alam, what they've read on the internet, who's told them what things have accumulated, and suddenly you find them leaving Islam. And we do live in that time now, brothers and sisters. It's become more and more. We hear about people leaving faith and leaving deen, and a lot of people who manipulate, let alone those who are leaving, the sunnahs to innovations and leaving what's right to the wrong. Now you've got people who are trying to create their own new religions. They come and tell you their own interpretation of the Quran. They choose which verses of the Quran and hadith that they want, and then interpret them to their desire, and going into nitty-gritty stuff without real knowledge, just from their own head. And then they think that they're saying something and affect other people. Why? Based on their desires, not based on the truth, because this suits me. It makes more sense to me, so I'm going to interpret it the way I want. And they make posts and they make, TikToks and I don't know what. And somehow, I don't know why, maybe it's like psychological sorcery, that I don't know why, when something goes on, a post goes on, suddenly it becomes magically true in our mind. I don't know why. You see that same person would say that to you, and you say, shut up man, you don't know what you're talking about. Suddenly you see that same person posting on TikTok, thousands of people believe it. What is it about the screen that does this magic? Is there some kind of classical operant conditioning of psychology that these algorithms work in? I think there are. I think there's studies about that. They suck you in. But Rasulullah is saying people become believers in this people by night. And so very quickly from this to that. And he said that they sell their religion for material gain. A status, a position, money, fame, luxury, comfort, desires, temptations, in the name of so-called love, attraction, whatever it is. All that is superficial. Rasulullah says, بِعَرَضٍ مِّنَ الدُّنْيَا. Arad means filthy, worthless things of this dunya, which you're going to leave all behind. It means nothing, there's no value to it. Some people will sell their religion for a little bit of likes because their self-esteem is low, and instead of seeking support, going back to Allah who loves them and the deen which will give them that support, and being around the people who fear Allah and give them support insha'Allah ta'ala, they'll look for other people who are actually out there to ridicule them, who are jealous, envious people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the bad company and from our hearts being lost. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So brothers and sisters, when you are in good health and good security, increase in your acts of righteousness. Recite your Quran, read from the Quran every day. How many of us here, I'm not going to ask you to put your hand up, but just asking you yourself, how many of you and me here have a daily time where we read from the Quran? Some of you may not read in Arabic, majority of us do, alhamdulillah. But how many of us actually have dedicated time daily, even if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes to read our Quran? The Quran, just reciting it has its effect on your heart tremendously. I mean, think about it. How much time we spend on social media over and over again, probably into the deep nights. Every day, every night. Where's the Quran now? It's like a little fish in the Pacific Ocean, the Quran, somewhere far in the darkness. And all this stuff that's coming into our brain, and we're scrolling away at it, and one after the other. It's killing our brains, killing our hearts. And I think 50 to 60% of our depression is from social media. It's doing something to us. So we're going to have to cut down on it and replace it with our time, at least with the Quran. The Quran can clean your heart 10 times more, 10 times over, by reciting just for about 10 minutes, inshallah. Dhikr, dua, and so on. So hasten to actions of righteousness now, it will help you in the times of calamity. What are the times of calamity? Sickness, poverty, tragedy, losses, right? Not just conflict and war. But conflict and war is the biggest one. Why? What happens in time of fitna? What happens when people start to conflict and harm each other? And we hear about wars and conflict around us like what we're hearing today. What happens to us? Naturally, when times of conflict and things that come to us of calamities, we get very busy. We get very busy talking about it. We get very busy spending our times and days and nights analyzing, interpreting, giving opinions, fighting, calling each other names, and on and on and on and on. How many times has it happened to you and you're on social media, someone brings up something and you just get caught in a cycle that goes on for hours, maybe the next day? And Rasul ﷺ tells us prioritize. Okay, there are conflicts in the world that are happening, spend a bit of time on it, but be careful, you can go into a spiral addiction where your salat is neglected and your true duties start to be neglected. Even your own family, your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your children. They don't obey us all the time, but they never fail to imitate us. And then we think, what happened?